It turns out this is why you would rather stay home after being abused by a narcissist. Experiencing narcissistic abuse can lead you to become more reclusive, favoring solitude over social interactions, even with close friends and family. Why does this happen? Because you find yourself grappling with emotions and reactions that others simply don't understand. You may develop social anxiety, a sense of awkwardness, agoraphobia, or a deep-seated fear of judgment, misunderstanding, or exploitation. The world starts to feel like an unpredictable and unsafe place. In response, you instinctively retreat inward. Isolation becomes your refuge, but unfortunately, those around you fail to see the reasons behind it. They may assume you're self-absorbed or overly introverted, labeling you as someone who lacks social skills. However, today, I'm here to validate your experience and explain why this response is completely natural. More importantly, I'll share insights on how to navigate it. I'm Danish, a psychologist, trauma therapist, and expert in narcissistic abuse recovery. In this episode, we'll explore 5 reasons why survivors of narcissistic abuse often prefer staying at home. If this topic resonates with you, consider subscribing to help raise awareness about narcissistic abuse. Let's start with reason number 1. Staying home provides a sense of control, not in a manipulative way, but in a way that fosters predictability and stability. This is not about exerting dominance, as narcissists do, but about creating an environment where you feel safe. Your home offers familiarity and comfort. Your bed, your favorite spot on the couch, the simple pleasure of watching TV without the exhausting need for social interaction. You experience something known as soul fatigue, an emotional exhaustion so profound that engaging with others feels forced and unnatural. Since you don't have the energy for inauthentic interactions, you choose to remain in the peaceful space of your home. People might question you. Don't you get bored? Don't you feel lonely? But solitude gives you the space to process everything you've been through. It allows you to reflect on the narcissistic relationship, analyze past experiences, and piece together the truth. Whether or not you find all the answers, the act of introspection itself feels necessary. More than anything, staying home means avoiding judgmental, demanding, and controlling people. It allows you to reclaim your own pace, free from external pressures. No one is shouting at you. No one is hurling insults, belittling you, or making you feel small. There's no need to tiptoe around, constantly fearing the next outburst. Sounds like a dream, right? For someone who hasn't endured what you have, this might seem dull or uneventful, but for you, it's pure freedom. How do I know? Because this has been my reality for the past 8 or 9 years. Spending most of my time at home has played a crucial role in my healing journey. Reason number 2, your home is your space, and you finally get to claim it. Concepts like autonomy, freedom, and serenity often feel foreign to survivors of narcissistic abuse. When you lived with the narcissist, there was nowhere to escape. The only solitude you might have found was a brief moment locked in the bathroom. But even there, peace was never guaranteed. They invaded every aspect of your existence, even disrupting your sleep. Your sense of self, your personality, identity, and independence was stripped away. But when you move into your own space, even if it's just a small single room, it feels like an empire. I remember that moment vividly, when I first rented a tiny room with just a bed and a small kitchen. It wasn't much, but it was mine. The silence was priceless. No yelling, no clanging of pots, no violent energy polluting the air, just stillness and freedom. That newfound autonomy is what makes staying home so appealing. Reason number 3, you might struggle with agoraphobia or a deep discomfort in crowded spaces. Being around large groups of people may feel overwhelming. Maybe you have auditory sensitivity, where loud noises physically hurt your ears, or too many voices at once feel unbearable. The demand for social engagement can feel like an impossible weight. I understand that feeling completely. While some people find excitement in places like malls, theaters, or busy shopping centers, You may find them draining and overstimulating. I used to avoid those spaces entirely, and even now, I'm selective about when I go. Social anxiety and awkwardness often hold survivors back from reintegrating into the world, but these struggles aren't random. They stem from the way the narcissist conditioned you. Every interaction with them was a minefield. No matter how carefully you spoke, they always found something wrong. Your tone, your word choice, your delivery. Over time, this relentless criticism made socializing feel like a high-stakes game. One where any misstep could invite shame or ridicule. You tried to correct yourself, but it felt pointless, like speaking to a wall. Conversations with them weren't really conversations at all. There was no listening, no validation, just silence and suppression. Over time, this made you anxious. Little by little, you started second-guessing yourself, afraid to even speak. Eventually, you barely said anything at all. This is what reshaped your personality, making you more withdrawn. I know this firsthand. Today, my speech flows naturally, but that wasn't always the case. In my younger years, around 5th to 8th grade, I used to stutter constantly. I thought there was something wrong with me, but it wasn't a confidence issue. It was the sheer terror embedded in my body. My father would mock me, slap me, punch me. Any attempt to express myself was met with violence. So, I stopped. I reduced my words to a simple yes or no because anything more felt unsafe. That's the root of your social anxiety and awkwardness. You carry the trauma into every new situation, misinterpreting people's behaviors through the lens of past abuse. If someone behaves remotely like your abuser, your mind jumps to the worst-case scenario. But in reality, their actions may come from an entirely different place. Yet, your survival brain, trained to protect you, does what it knows best. It keeps you silent. In some cases, this instinct helps. In others, it holds you back. Reason number 4. Staying home allows you to control your time and interactions. You decide when, how, and with whom you engage, usually through virtual means. The rise of remote work has made this easier, offering flexibility that was never possible in face-to-face settings. But when you're physically present with others, you're forced to stay, even when your body is crying out for rest. You can't always tend to your emotional wounds. Step away when things get overwhelming, or recharge in the way you need. Maybe your attention struggles due to trauma-induced ADD. Maybe you dissociate in overstimulating environments. Maybe hearing multiple voices at once feels unbearable. In a physical space, you have little control over these challenges. But at home, you set the rules. You determine when meetings happen and how they take place. This control brings a sense of security that's deeply needed after narcissistic abuse. It removes the pressure of social anxiety, allowing you to express yourself fully without the immediate judgment of others bearing down on you. 5th, and finally, the solitude of a safe home environment fosters deep healing. After enduring narcissistic abuse, our nervous systems are stretched beyond their limits. Our window of tolerance, the ability to handle stress, becomes extremely narrow. The smallest trigger can push us over the edge, throwing us into panic, anxiety, or a frozen state where we feel completely drained and unable to function. When we are constantly overstimulated by people, social settings, or external demands, it overwhelms us, affecting not only our mental well-being, but also our ability to perform everyday tasks. Now let's talk about what real healing looks like. We often hear about healing, but what does that actually mean? According to Judith H. Herman, a pioneer in trauma psychology, true trauma recovery doesn't start with emotional release or digging up painful memories. Instead, the first and most crucial step is stabilization. This means creating a sense of safety, both mentally and physically, before attempting to process deeper wounds. Stabilization is about consistency. It's about building a predictable, structured, and supportive environment that remains steady for months. This allows the nervous system to exit survival mode and re-engage the brain's higher functions, the part responsible for thinking clearly, making decisions, and growing as a person. Without this foundational stability, true healing is nearly impossible. This is why many survivors instinctively withdraw from the outside world. In the early stages of healing, isolation isn't a weakness. It's a necessary act of self-preservation. It gives you the time and space needed to regulate your emotions, restore your energy, and reclaim your sense of self. So, what's the takeaway? My goal with this episode is to normalize self-isolation as part of the recovery process. Society often imposes expectations on us, pushing us to be social, to conform, to act in ways that don't align with our true needs. But ask yourself, who decided those rules? Who benefits from them? Are these societal expectations rooted in control rather than genuine well-being? True freedom isn't just escaping the narcissist, it's freeing yourself from all narcissistic influences, including societal pressures that don't serve your healing. Let your experience with narcissistic abuse become a catalyst for your growth. You don't have to force yourself into spaces that don't feel safe. Honor your healing, trust your instincts, and take the time you need. That wraps up today's episode. I hope you found it insightful. Feel free to share your thoughts in the comments, and I'll see you in the next one. Until then, as always, let the healing begin and continue.